Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are going to be really diving deep into KPI Green Energy's Q2 FY25 performance.
Right.
We've got a ton of material to go through today. Press releases, financial statements, investor presentations, and even a report from the chartered accountants.
Sounds like we've got all our bases covered for a complete picture.
That's the plan. By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a super clear understanding of KPI Green Energy and what their performance this quarter means for you.
We've got some impressive numbers to unpack, that's for sure.
That's an understatement. KPI Green Energy is actually reporting record-breaking revenue this quarter.
Yeah, they're seeing unprecedented growth both for Q2 and the first half of the financial year.
We're talking about a 75% increase for the first half of FY25,
Right.
and then a whopping 67.4% jump for Q2 alone.
It's their highest revenue ever.
So what's driving this crazy growth?
Well, a few things are at play here. First, the demand for renewable energy solutions is skyrocketing globally, thanks to sustainability goals and favorable government policies.
So they're kind of riding that wave.
Exactly, but they're not just passively riding it.
Okay.
KPI Green Energy is strategically positioning itself to actually capture a big chunk of this growing market.
So it's not just a rising tide lifting all boats.
No, they're definitely outperforming the market.
Okay, and they're not just growing revenue, they're becoming more profitable too, right?
Absolutely. Their EBITDA is up by a massive 87.3% for the first half of the year.
Whoa, 87.3%. Could you remind me what EBITDA stands for again?
Oh, yeah. It stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. It's a key indicator of a company's operating profitability.
Gotcha. And what about their PBT?
Well, profit before tax saw an even more remarkable 120% increase for Q2.
So for someone who might be thinking about investing in KPI Green Energy, what does all this mean for them?
Honestly, it's really promising. It suggests that they're not only growing their revenue, but also becoming more efficient at turning that revenue into profit.
That makes a lot of sense. And here's something else that really stands out to me. KPI Green Energy has actually achieved zero net debt on a standalone basis.
That's a significant accomplishment.
It is.
Yeah.
But can you explain what that actually means in simpler terms and why our listeners should care about it?
Sure. Basically, it means they have enough cash on hand to cover all their debts.
Okay.
It gives them a ton of financial flexibility.
Makes sense. But why is that so important, especially in the renewable energy sector?
Well, it means they're not burdened by interest payments or debt obligations.
Right.
So they have more freedom to invest in new projects, maybe make strategic acquisitions, or even, return value to shareholders.
So it's not just about having a clean balance sheet. It's about having the resources to really capitalize on new opportunities.
Exactly. This financial stability makes them more attractive to investors, lenders, and even potential partners.
Now, speaking of positive signs, KPI Green Energy also received a credit rating upgrade this quarter.
Yeah, ICRA bumped them up to ICRA with a positive outlook.
For those who may not be familiar with credit ratings, what does that upgrade actually mean for KPI Green Energy?
So a credit rating upgrade is basically a big vote of confidence.
Okay.
It means that ICRA believes KPI Green Energy is more creditworthy now, they're more likely to meet their financial obligations, and there's a lower risk of default.
So it's kind of like getting a gold star for good financial behavior.
Uh-huh, you could say that.
Yeah.
And it's especially impressive because this upgrade comes at a time when the global economy is, well, a little shaky.
Yeah, for
So a
sure.
lot of companies are struggling.
Right.
But KPI Green Energy is thriving.
Okay, so they've got the financials down pat. But what about actual projects? How are they translating this success into real-world growth?
KPI Green Energy is doing a phenomenal job at securing new projects. They just signed power purchase agreements for a massive 620 megawatts of alternating current, or MWAC, capacity with GUVNL.
Oh, 620 MWAC. That sounds huge.
Yeah.
Can you break down what a PPA is for those who might not be
Well,
familiar?
a power purchase agreement, or PPA, is a long-term contract. It's between a power generator, in this case KPI Green Energy, and a buyer, which is usually a utility company or a large industrial consumer.
Gotcha.
The PPA lays out all the details of the agreement, including the price of the electricity, the length of the contract, and other important stuff.
So it's essentially a guaranteed revenue stream for KPI Green Energy for the life of these projects.
You got it. It gives them predictable income, which makes it way easier to secure financing and plan for future growth.
These 620 MWAC PPAs are expected to be operational by June 2026.
Yep.
That's a ton of new capacity coming online in the next few years. What does that mean for KPI Green Energy's future revenue and profitability?
Well, these new projects should significantly boost their revenue,
Yeah.
and they could even see their profit margins grow wider, too.
So it's like adding fuel to an already blazing fire.
Haha, exactly. These PPAs are a clear sign that KPI Green Energy is hungry for growth and are actively going after new opportunities to expand their presence in the renewable energy world.
And it's not just about their ambition. It also shows there's a huge demand for what they're offering.
Right.
Utility companies and big corporations are looking for reliable and sustainable energy sources. And KPI Green Energy is stepping up to the plate.
Exactly. And this is where their hybrid model really shines. They've already installed 81 megawatts of hybrid capacity.
So they're not just betting on solar, they're diversifying,
Right.
right? Harnessing the power of both sun and wind.
Precisely. This hybrid approach helps them tackle one of the biggest challenges in renewable energy, which is intermittency.
What do you mean by intermittency?
Well, the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow.
Yeah.
But by combining both sources, they can actually generate a more consistent and reliable energy output.
So like having a backup generator for your power grid, ensuring a constant flow of clean energy.
You got it. And KPI Green Energy isn't just dabbling in hybrid. They have a massive 1.1 gigawatts in orders for hybrid projects, which shows they're really committed to this innovative approach.
That's an impressive pipeline. Why do you think this hybrid model is so advantageous, especially for India's energy landscape?
Well, India is facing a huge demand for reliable and sustainable power sources.
Right.
Relying on fossil fuels isn't cutting it anymore. It's bad for the environment, and it's becoming increasingly unreliable and expensive.
So hybrid systems offer a more viable solution.
Exactly. Combining solar and wind smooths out the energy supply and reduces the need for those expensive, polluting backup power plants.
It seems like KPI Green Energy is really nailing it in terms of growth strategy, financial performance, and commitment to innovation.
They're definitely demonstrating a smart and forward-thinking approach.
But it's not just about building power plants and signing contracts, right? It's also about how they're building them and the technologies they're using.
Absolutely. KPI Green Energy is using some really cutting-edge technologies to make their operations more efficient and profitable.
All right, let's dive into some of these technological advancements and see how they're giving KPI Green Energy a competitive edge.
One of the key technologies they're using is single-axis sun trackers.
Sun trackers, what are those?
They're these cool devices that automatically adjust the angle of the solar panels throughout the day.
Oh, wow.
This makes sure that the panels are always facing the sun for maximum energy capture.
So it's like the solar panels are doing their own little sunflower dance, following the sun all day long.
Haha, something like that. By maximizing the amount of sunlight hitting the panels, they increase energy generation and boost the overall efficiency of their solar farms.
And what about bifacial solar panels? Those sound like something out of a sci-fi movie.
They kinda are. Bifacial panels, unlike traditional ones that only capture sunlight from one side, can actually absorb sunlight from both sides.
Whoa, from both sides.
Yeah, so they can harness not only direct sunlight, but also reflected sunlight from the ground or surrounding surfaces.
So even on cloudy days or when the sun is low in the sky, they're still working hard.
Exactly. This double-sided energy capture really boosts their overall energy output, especially in areas with high reflectivity.
That's pretty incredible. It's like they have superpower solar panels.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you could say that. And to keep those high-tech panels running at their best, they're using AI-driven waterless robotic cleaners.
Ah, yes, I remember reading about those. It's like having tiny Roombas roaming around the solar farm, keeping everything clean.
That's a great way to put it. These little robots move across the panels, removing dust, debris, anything that might block the sunlight.
So they help maximize energy production, lower operating costs, and reduce environmental impact all at the same time.
Exactly. It's a triple win. And it really showcases KPI Green Energy's commitment to innovation.
But technology is only one piece of the puzzle, right? How does KPI Green Energy make sure that all these systems are actually working together, that their power plants are operating efficiently, and that they're providing reliable energy to their clients?
Well, that's where their Network Operations Center, or NOC, comes in.
What exactly is a Network Operations Center, and what does it do for KPI Green Energy?
Think of it as the central nervous system of their entire power generation network. It's a centralized hub where a team of experts monitor all their power plants in real time using some seriously sophisticated software and data analytics.
So they're basically keeping an eye on their whole energy empire from this command center.
That's a good way to put it. The NOC lets them track energy generation, spot any potential problems, and deal with them before they become major issues.
It's like having a 2-footer 47 doctor for their energy system, constantly monitoring its vital signs.
Haha, precisely. This proactive approach minimizes downtime and ensures their power plants are running at peak performance.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, from their record-breaking financials to their hybrid model and cutting-edge tech.
We've just scratched the surface.
There's still so much more to unpack. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's dig a little deeper into KPI Green Energy's hybrid model.
Sounds good.
It's not as simple as just throwing solar and wind together, right? There's a real science behind it.
You're absolutely right. It's all about understanding the specific characteristics of each region. Like, let's say you have an area with strong winds for a few months but not much sunlight. Well, in that case, wind turbines would be the primary energy source.
Ah, I see. And then when the sun is out in full force, the solar panels take over.
Exactly. It's all about teamwork, even in renewable energy.
God, I love that synergy. And how do those cool technologies we talked about earlier, like the sun trackers and bifacial panels, fit into all of this?
Well, those sun trackers play a crucial role.
Okay.
They ensure that the solar panels are always catching those rays, maximizing energy capture throughout the day.
It's like they have their own little sun tanning schedule going on.
Haha, you could say that.
Yeah.
And yeah, those bifacial panels are pretty amazing too.
Do they really capture sunlight from both sides?
They do. They're designed to absorb both direct and reflected sunlight, which makes them super efficient, especially in areas with higher reflectivity.
So even when it's a bit cloudy, they're still generating some power.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about those AI-powered cleaners that keep the panels spotless.
Our little solar Roombas. They definitely play their part in maximizing efficiency and minimizing the environmental impact.
Absolutely. Now, taking a step back, what do you think KPI Green Energy's success story tells us about the future of renewable energy in India?
It's pretty inspiring, honestly.
Definitely.
It shows that India's ambitious goal of achieving 500 GW of renewable energy capacity by 2030 is actually within reach.
That's right. It's a massive undertaking.
Yeah,
But companies like KPI Green Energy are proving it's possible.
they're leading the way, showing that renewable energy can be both profitable and sustainable.
Exactly. Their success is encouraging more players to enter the market.
So it's like a domino effect, pushing the whole country toward a cleaner energy future.
That's the idea. And it's not just limited to India. This is a global trend.
Absolutely. All over the world, countries are setting ambitious climate goals and investing heavily in renewable energy sources. And companies with a strong track record, like KPI Green Energy, are well positioned to capitalize on this global shift.
They're definitely at the forefront of this energy revolution.
Now, I think our listeners would want us to talk about the potential risk as well. What challenges could KPI Green Energy face in the future?
That's a great question. No investment is completely risk-free.
Right.
One challenge is the ever-changing regulatory landscape. Government policies, incentives, and regulations can shift, and that can impact the profitability of renewable energy projects.
So it's like navigating a ship through unpredictable waters.
Exactly. Another challenge is the inherent unpredictability of renewable energy sources themselves.
Right. You can't control the weather.
Can't control Mother Nature. While the hybrid model helps mitigate this to some extent, there's always going to be some uncertainty when it comes to predicting energy generation.
And what about competition? The renewable energy market is getting pretty crowded.
It is. KPI Green Energy needs to stay ahead of the curve, continuously innovating and differentiating themselves to stay competitive.
So they need to keep pushing the boundaries and coming up with new solutions.
Precisely. And speaking of staying ahead, there's always the risk of technological disruption.
What if some new technology comes along and makes their current systems obsolete?
That's a valid concern. The renewable energy sector is constantly evolving. KPI Green Energy needs to be adaptable, embracing new advancements to maintain their leadership position.
So they need to stay agile and keep their finger on the pulse of innovation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about their overall strategy and performance. What should people be paying attention to when evaluating KPI Green Energy?
There are a few key metrics to keep in mind.
Okay.
One is return on equity, or ROE. This measures how effectively a company uses shareholder investments to generate profit.
So a higher ROE generally means they're doing a good job.
Generally, yes. Another important metric is the debt-to-equity ratio, which gives you a sense of the company's financial leverage or risk.
And as we discussed earlier, KPI Green Energy has zero net debt, which is a fantastic position to be in.
It is. It minimizes their financial risk and gives them more room to maneuver.
And then there's the cash flow statement, right?
Exactly. That's crucial. It shows how much cash the company is generating from its operations, which is essential for reinvestment, growth, and meeting financial obligations.
So, to sum it up, We've delved into KPI Green Energy's financial performance, explored their innovative hybrid model, and even considered some of the potential challenges they might face.
We've provided a well-rounded perspective on the company.
But our deep dive isn't over just yet. Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. We've spent this episode analyzing KPI Green Energy, from their financials to their innovative hybrid model.
We've covered a lot.
We have.
Yeah.
Now let's bring it all together. What are the key takeaways our listeners should remember?
Okay, well, first, KPI Green Energy is more than just a participant in the renewable energy boom. They're a leader.
Right.
Their revenue and profit numbers prove they're not just riding the wave, they're creating it.
And they're doing it with zero net debt.
Exactly. That financial freedom gives them so much flexibility to pursue new opportunities and grow even faster.
It's like they have a clear path forward with no obstacles in sight.
And they're not just growing for growth's sake. Their hybrid model, combining solar and wind energy, sets them apart in a big way.
Right. It's not just about being green. It's also about making sure the energy supply is reliable and consistent, which is so important as India transitions to a more sustainable energy future.
You've got it. And those technological advancements we talked about, the sun trackers, bifacial panels, the AI-powered cleaners, they're all contributing to a more efficient and sustainable operation.
It's like they're running a high-tech lab dedicated to pushing the limits of what's possible in renewable energy.
Absolutely. And with their network operations center monitoring everything in real time, they're ensuring a smooth and efficient operation.
But we've also got to be realistic, right? Every investment carries some risk. And we talked about those too, like the regulatory uncertainties, the unpredictable nature of renewables themselves, and the competition in the market.
Right. It's crucial for anyone considering an investment to look at both the potential rewards and the risks.
So for our listeners who've been with us through this entire deep dive, what's the one big takeaway they should remember about KPI Green Energy?
KPI Green Energy is leading the charge in India's renewable energy revolution. Their strategic vision, their embrace of technology, and their strong financial footing make them a very compelling investment opportunity in a rapidly growing sector.
Well said. But before we wrap up completely, let's leave our listeners with something to think about.
Right.
We've seen what KPI Green Energy is doing today, but what about the future? How will their growth and innovation impact not just India's renewable energy goals, but the entire sector globally? Could they potentially reshape the way we think about and implement renewable energy solutions worldwide?
That's an excellent question.
I hope this deep dive has given you a lot to consider as you explore KPI Green Energy's journey and the future of renewable energy. Until next time, keep learning and stay curious.